Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so with the big memes that have been going on lately around the World Tournament LR Blue Boys, the We Saiyans Have No Limits, you see it in like all of the live stream reveal chats and everything. Like, I don't know what it is about this unit in particular that has made them sort of have a bit of a comeback as a meme. Maybe because we've just been through another worldwide celebration and all of the headline units, like the worldwide celebration had its issues for sure, but all of the headliner units were really good and I think generally praised overall, which maybe, I guess, brought these guys back to the forefront as being one of the units that were from the previous worldwide and were just not very good in people's opinion, or certainly their honeymoon period was over very, very quickly. Because I remember when they first came out, there being some criticisms, especially obviously the classic meme of them getting incredibly low like attack stats, especially in slot 1, right? Because this unit is better defensively in slot 1, better offensively in slot 2. You know, back when they came out, they certainly could be good, right? There were situations where you could just put them in slot 1, they would dodge everything or just tank all normals because of the guard and what have you, but they wouldn't put out a lot of damage, which I think people were mostly disappointed, especially with, you know, the meme itself, right? We Saiyans have no limits, let's charge in at full power, and then they're dropping like an additional super attack that does less than 2 million attack stats. So definitely a big old meme, but it got me thinking, and we were talking about in one of the streams the other day about other units that were considered really bad on release, just absolute fumbles right out of the gate, or at least very, very soon after their release. It showed that not a lot of thought went into their design or the design of the celebration that came around them. So I made this post where we could talk about who are the biggest or most notorious fumbles when it comes to unit releases in Dokkan. Shout out to everybody who did reply. There's quite a lot of replies on here, so we're going to try and go through and see if we can get through as many of them as possible without the video being too long. If your reply doesn't make it into the video, or you didn't see this thread before I ended up recording it, because obviously I'm sure some people will probably end up replying between now when I'm recording it and when the video goes up later today. So if you don't see your reply in the video, either because we didn't get to it due to time, or it was, you know, you put it on there after the video was recorded, do let me know down below in the comment section. And obviously if you don't use Twitter or you just didn't see this post, let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. So we are going to have a quick scroll down here and see what people are saying. So we got our boy Platty here, the LR Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, specifically on Global, because yeah, this guy, what an absolute victim of the pre-sync era, right? With this guy coming out on Global way after his release on JP. But of course, with the worldwide celebration being a celebration that was on both versions at the same time, this guy dropped after the worldwide celebration on Global. The worldwide celebration kind of ushered in a new meta with the Dismal Future Red Zone, where events were really difficult straight from turn 1, like bosses were hitting incredibly hard. Obviously Zamasu at the final stage with the AoEs and everything was a nightmare for players in that meta for quite a long time. And so then this guy came out on Global and just instantly wasn't good in the Dismal Future Red Zone, which is very, very disappointing when it comes to a unit coming out, a hype LR, people love Super Saiyan 4, and then yeah, for global players, he came out and just wasn't good in the latest difficult content that had just come out, which was very disappointing. And then of course, you know, one of the events that he absolutely dominated on JP was when he came out for the Tanabata celebration. The part 2 LR was Omega, that then released the Omega stage for the Shadow Dragons event, and this guy was really good in that stage, but that stage didn't then drop on Global because of the way they separate the Tanabata stuff to fit in around the weird global schedule. The Tanabata part 2 stuff didn't come out until February, so this guy came out in November, wasn't good in the content that was out at the time, and then the one event that he was going to be good in didn't come out on Global until February. And so by then we already had like some other stuff, and that Omega event wasn't really that difficult on release. Like, you didn't need to have Goku to beat the event or anything like that. So definitely for Global, the way they handled this guy's release, I think we could say was most certainly a fumble. So we have Holden, my goat. Unfortunately for him, he never got a place to shine. Oh yeah, this is the this is some cool art, but yeah, this is the Kaioken STR-LR Kaioken Goku from the part 2 of the 7th anniversary. He was on Goku and Gohan's team, but they wanted to go slow, which was completely against the philosophy of Kaioken Goku. Him and Vegeta are two fumbles that hit me hard. I mean, yeah, a lot of people wanted like a Kaioken Goku and Vegeta dual Dokkan Fest for a long, long time. And then they released them as like the part 2 yellow coin LRs from the anniversary. And just neither of them, like, I wouldn't say they were necessarily bad. I think Vegeta was considered worse, but maybe was a little bit underrated. Like, they weren't bad on release, but they just didn't really have a great home. Like, they got dropped as the part 2 LRs, but the Saiyan Saga team like didn't really get any buffs. Wasn't particularly great. And in fact, even the next comment here is from our boy Vector. These two should have fed generations, but they ended up being the biggest nothing burgers of all time. And I say this as someone who rainbowed Kaioken on release. Yeah, and I remember Vector being super hyped for these guys. Fan of the Saiyan Saga stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, these guys, they came out as the part 2 LRs, which, you know, back in that old format, say what you will, whether, like, some people I know still don't like the Carnival X Dokkan format and all that kind of stuff. But this is the classic example of why the old format didn't really work very well, or at least I guess you could argue maybe the character choices were a bigger part of it. But like the part 1 LRs came out, were super hype, they were really good, like great units, like the best units in the game, good animations, everything, popular character choices and all that. And then the part 2, remember being a yellow coin LR banner, and then it was these two characters on a category that didn't really get any buffs. And they weren't like, you know, hands down the new best yellow coin LRs or anything. So yeah, definitely the way these guys were released was a fumble. These guys could have been the headliner dual Dokkan Fest LRs for like a bigger celebration, like a New Year thing or something like that, right? Or, you know, even if they weren't LRs, I guess, for New Year's. But these guys, I think, definitely deserved a bit of a deserved better planning than just being like the part 2 LRs of an anniversary, where the part 1 units definitely massively dwarfed them in terms of hype, right? So very disappointing. So Z-Ed, gotta be this guy. Yeah, LR Omega Shenron. Looking forward to an LR Omega to be a villain LR Bulma. Yeah, remember, like, villains absolutely get disrespected by Dokkan. Ever since Bulma's release, one of the immediate things people were saying is like, oh, I can't wait until we get the extreme version of Bulma. And obviously, I think even up until this point, like, we still haven't gotten that. Now, we've gotten some good new extreme units, but not a unit like that is almost hands down the best unit in the game, is supporting the whole of the rest of the team, like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I mean, you could argue on release, characters like Tech Broly, Int Broly, like being some of the best units in the game, they have the same kind of impact. But the fact that you could, like, she was so good on release, like people were using her on teams where she didn't even get like the full leader skill, or throwing her on the AGL Blue Boys team where she was just getting the 150 superclass. And at the time when she released, like, that was fine. That was all she needed. Obviously, now she started to drop off a little bit defensively on these teams where she's not getting a 200% lead. She does take some time to build up. But, yeah, we never really got an extreme version of Bulma. This guy, the final boss of Dragon Ball for a good 15 years, ended up being a defensive unit that relies on a dead team to do his job, and he does no damage. Such a monumental fumble. I mean, yeah, this guy, like, a design for an Omega Shenron with some of the links that he has and stuff, an Omega Shenron could be a really, really good unit. But yeah, just completely locked onto GT bosses, which is a terrible team. So yeah, rip Omega Shenron, I guess. Then we have our boy AC. The 4 listed here are amongst the most infamous. So we've got STR Vegito Blue. His EZA was so bad that people thought you shouldn't fully EZA him, and then he had to be buffed to be mediocre. Yeah, this was one of those times where the massive outcry from the JP player base kind of led to him actually being buffed. Because, yeah, when people first read... I've completely forgotten about that. When people first read his EZA details, like, people were saying that he was worse after being EZA'd. And I think it's the final step for an LR that fixes their passive, or changes their passive. So people were saying you should just do, like, the first step of the EZA so that his super attack effect gets updated, and then just don't do the rest, which is crazy. So then they buffed him, and then, yeah, he was okay, like, on release with his EZA, because I think for Global, he obviously came out with the buff already, like, he just came out as the buffed version, and he was okay, but, yeah, not great. Then we have the LR Team Bardock. their last copies were 3 years after their release. Yeah, we waited all that time to get the final copy to actually be able to rainbow them, and then they weren't good anyway, right? They got their easy A and they're just not really anything special. Then we have this is the Int Android 16. His original release, he was the wrong type and trash. Yeah, he was bad when he came out, and he was Int, which means by not being a Kamehameha unit and not being a Super AGL unit, he wasn't on Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's team. So getting that condition for getting the Gohan transformation was incredibly difficult, which is a meme in and of itself. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody mentions that in this thread. And then, yeah, number 4, LMAO. The Tech Piccolo that was the banner unit from Namek Goku for that worldwide celebration. The banner unit for Full Power Frieza was in third form Frieza, and at the time of release, he was potentially like the best banner unit in the game. And then there was this guy on the Goku banner, and he was just absolutely terrible. So yeah, all 4 definitely, when it comes to, it's not even necessarily about the unit quality themselves, but just how their release was planned and executed. Absolute fumble, especially the Team Bardock one. Why we had to wait so long to get their final copy, and then when it finally happened, they weren't even really good enough to be meta relevant, which is just crazy to me. But there you go. Shout out to Prof. We got when your whole passive builds up on additional, but 2 of your 3 additionals have a condition, you're useless. I'm still sorry for him. His superhero landing pose is so awesome. Yeah, Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Broly is definitely a hero's choice that is very, very hype. But yeah, his additionals from his passive are locked behind him fighting certain enemies. And yeah, in a lot of situations, he is just really not very good. Like, it's a shame because when we saw his details and everything, not only is he cool, but like his link, he links really well with this Super Saiyan 3 Rose. So like you kind of want to have him on the team. He fits quite nicely with some of the other characters, but yeah, he's just really not very good. And outside, because he's outside of like certain events with a tech enemy, he's just not really very useful at all, which is unfortunate. He said 2023. Yeah, 2023 was a notorious year for like hit or miss. Like things were either pretty decent or we just got a bunch of stuff that was absolutely terrible. So we got Lummo here with the LR Ginyu Force. Interesting. All they had to do was add and Terrifying Conqueror / Planet Namek Saga to every special pose condition, and these guys could have been an amazingly aging support unit. I mean, this is true, right? They're only really good on like the Ginyu Force team or a special pose team, or you can't even do their active skill if their full team isn't special pose or Ginyu Force, which is weird. Making them like Terrifying Conquerors or even like Space Traveling Warriors or something would have been really good to allow them to be run on other teams. I don't know if I would necessarily agree that they were a massive fumble. I mean, they were good on release, but of course, I guess the problem is on release, the Ginyu Force team itself was already pretty outdated. So they kind of relied on like the Topo, like Dokkan Fest Topo special pose team, which, you know, if you didn't pull Topo, like I didn't, I then pulled these guys, and trying to make a good team to like run them on was just very, very difficult. So definitely a bit too restricted for these guys for sure. And then we have, is it Matryoshka? As a big Vegito fan, they are number 1 without question. Worldwide celebration headliner, Vegito's return after 3 years since his last unit. And what do we get? Awful base kit, awful base animations, and horrible transformation conditions. Worst Dokkan moment for me personally. I was so disappointed. I mean, yeah, many people I think share that same sentiment, right? Like so many people disappointed with this release. The transformation condition definitely very annoying to try and play around. Like if you can get it to go off, like you can have runs where they look pretty good. Vegito can do some good stuff, but the biggest problem with the transformation condition is if you don't get it, you get to that turn where they can't transform, they lose their guard, and like they just get absolutely destroyed. So definitely a huge disappointment. Not surprising to see them on this list, I'm sure, more than once. Then we have AGL Dokkan Fest Trunks is insultingly terrible. He's not the worst, but the way such a moment was treated is just frustrating. I remember a lot of people having that sentiment at the time, right? That AGL Dokkan Fest Trunks came out. It was a cool like moment, like a good choice for a new Dokkan Fest for Trunks, but probably one of the only units I can think of. We were talking about this on the stream the other day, and I don't think anyone else had any other real suggestions, but like one of the only units I can think of that is worse after transforming. So straight away off, like right off the bat, that tells you something about his how well his design was received by the community. But yeah, that AGL Trunks, I remember I got, typically with units that I didn't really want or care about, got super lucky on his banner. I think I got like 4 copies of him in under 500 stones, which is typical for a unit that I don't really want. And then, yeah, I did like the initial showcase for him, tried him out on like 1 or 2 different teams, and then pretty much from that point, like never used him again. So hopefully that'll get fixed with an easy A, but we'll see. So Tamim still saddened by this every day. Yeah, LR Omega Shenron, RIP. Zindrick with the Tech Super 17. I remember when this guy came out, because obviously a lot of people will tag me whenever there's a Super 17 like related thing, or Heroes of course. And yeah, I woke up to see this guy LR Super 17 announced, obviously very excited. And then yeah, unit released for a team with no cards. All the units on the team were garbage or unrunnable, and he himself has one of, if not the worst mechanic we've ever seen. High chance for 1 key per hit. Yeah, this is, I think, is he the only unit in the game that has that? And I don't think they ever did it again, where when he takes an attack, he has a chance to get 1 extra key. So if it goes off, then it's all well and good, but sometimes it just doesn't. So terrible. And also this guy got really shafted with with his release, like placement in the schedule, because it wasn't long after his release that we saw the first units that could nullify or absorb super attacks, which of course, being a massive part of Super 17's whole deal with his character, he absolutely should have been a unit that could do that, but released just before that mechanic was added into the game. So yeah, GT bosses, like team unit that also wants to be run with like androids or target Goku, just didn't really fit in very well. Very, very strange. Obviously GT bosses still suffers from that same issue now that a lot of these bosses categories do as well, where not all of the extreme characters are on there, right? So not having the Hellfire 17 and the other 17s on there didn't help either. So yeah, definitely a fumble for this guy. Tech Super 17 and Raditz, these guys were good on release at least. Yeah, he's talking about the blue boys, because they could be good for sure. Vegito, primetime cash money character, second biggest annual celebration. They not only made the base form worthless, but made the entire point of the character's existence, Vegito, locked behind the worst conditions you've ever seen. Yep. Not surprised to see Vegito on here multiple times. Goditz, they didn't give him the passive to delete the game if the player uses him. I mean, Raditz is a real big one that I expected to see on here a few times. He was definitely a big meme. Int LR Blue Evolution Vegeta, the worst aging anniversary unit pre-EZA. Yeah, honestly, by the time the anniversary was ending, I saw people like saying that Blue Evolution Vegeta wasn't that good, which, of course, for me was a nightmare roller coaster ride, because you guys remember, if you were around the channel back then, obviously it's a few years ago now, it took me over 4,000 stones to pull a copy of Blue Evolution Vegeta, only for him to not be that good. And after doing again, he's another unit that for me as a creator, he falls into that category of like, I did the first couple of initial videos testing him out and then just basically never used him again. So was absolutely not worth the massive ordeal I went through to actually get a copy of him. But of course now he has his EZA and is actually really good. So I guess at least there's that. So we got Fierus here, says worst LR, worst EZA, worst TUR, and worst banner unit. So we've got the worst LR is the Tech Super 17. Worst EZA is the STR Jiren, which, I mean, yeah, he was absolutely awful. Worst TUR is Raditz, and then worst banner unit, that STR Gohan. I mean, I remember everyone saying that he was terrible. I'm not sure if I even pulled him from it was the Super Trunks banner, right? He was the banner unit. But yeah, a couple of these units we've seen mentioned before. Definitely Jiren's EZA was absolutely terrible. Massive fumble there for sure, especially because we hadn't had a new Jiren at that point either. So really, really bad. Brick Gangster, yeah, mentioning these guys again. The Great 8 Vegeta and Kaioken Goku. These are the biggest fumble in Dokkan. The two, yeah, climax moments of one of the most iconic fights in the franchise, and ended up dropping a subpar yellow coin LRs. Yep. Then we have Lewis Charles with the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. His and Omega's global release is still the worst decision they've ever done. Sold an unfinished unit. couldn't use them at full power. You guys know my thoughts on this at this point, right? I made a video a little while ago about the biggest global W's and global L's across the history of the game before the sync. I've talked about it in videos before that as well. I don't consider to be released to be an L at all. I consider it a W. I would much rather have got these units come out early to use on global on my other teams and them just not have a leader skill, rather than them just not come out on global and have to wait 6 months for them to come out with the category leader skills. I mean, yes, they weren't obviously as powerful because they didn't have their new meta, like 150% leader skills they had, whereas we just, you know, finished up the 120 leads meta. But I had tons of fun. I pulled this guy and not Omega, and I had tons of fun using this guy on the physical Vegito blue team. So for me, I was very happy that these units came out at the same time on global, even if it meant that they didn't get a leader skill, because the alternative would be that they just didn't come out on global at all, because they obviously decided global wasn't ready to get the category meta because we hadn't even finished getting all the 120 leads. So the only other option was we don't get them at all. So I was quite happy to get them with no leader skill. I know a lot of people don't agree, but like I say, they weren't going to release the categories on Dokkan, on global. So it was get them with no leader skill or not get them at all. And I'm happy that we got them. So, but yeah, obviously the unit himself was very good, but they're just talking about the to be released essentially. 2022 was the year of highly anticipated cards being flops. Honestly, it's the second worst year Dokkan has had in terms of consistency, just barely being edged out by 2023. So yeah, the Blue Boys from the Cooler Worldwide, I think at the time, I would say they were the worst of those 4 LRs. I think Metal Cooler was underrated. I just really did not like these guys at all. I pulled my 1 copy of them, tried them out, and then the rest of the celebration, I just did more summons on the Cooler banner. And didn't touch their banner again at all, because really they weren't very good. The ROF Blues are a huge one. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Resurrection of F. I think it was alright. Like, obviously, as a fan of the franchise, we hadn't gotten anything for years. We finally got Battle of Gods, and then we got another movie. I really enjoyed Resurrection of F, at least when it came out. And so, yeah, I was really looking forward to, like, a blue Goku that exchanges into Vegeta from Resurrection of F, and then we finally got one, and they were terrible. Raditz, we've obviously mentioned already. And then, yeah, Tech Bardock. Tech Bardock could be okay in the right scenarios, but he just aged very badly. And obviously, as a Bardock fan, very disappointed overall with that. But, yeah, we definitely had some dud releases throughout that year for sure. Jay Smith says, definitely AGL Vegito. The moment where Sparking Zero got in the joke, that's when its fate was sealed. Yeah, the whole... Oh, I forgot. Yeah, maybe they posted the meme about it as well, right? The Saiyans of No Limits thing. So that's why that's kind of made a resurgence. These guys, in my opinion, is the top 3 worst ever released, because they had potential when they dropped, and when help arrived in the 9th anniversary part 3 EZA, they were already power crept. What's more tragic about them is how forgettable they are, that you barely... I don't know what finish your sentence, I guess. Yeah, I mean, these guys, they had the potential, and then, yeah, the Universe 7 team all easy-aid, so many LRs and everything, and now, like, the best version of that Universe 7 team, you just wouldn't even run them on the team. I don't know if they're necessarily, like, fully power crept. They have damage reduction after they super and everything. I guess against a physical enemy they could get clapped, but I mean, they could still be kind of useful. But the best version of the Reps of Universe 7 team, I would say, you don't need to run them, which is a shame. Pre-EZA 5th anniversary fusions both came out, and Insta next release was stronger. Also Super Trunks. Then we have Android 21, maybe not a complete fumble, but I feel like should have been way better. But then again, that goes for the entire year of 2023. I think Android 21 was massively underrated. She just wasn't good against AoEs. But everything else in the meta at the time, I think she was fine, right? Like, could do very well. Tons of healing, loads of attacks. Like, the team was quite interesting with the units you could run together. I don't think I would include her on the list of fumbles. The ROF Blues, yeah, not surprising to see them again. Super Saiyan 4 Goku again. Good on release. As soon as Dismal Future Red Zone released, he was getting one shot. Exactly. So for global, definitely terrible. Emma with these guys again, yeah. And then LR Tech Super 17, our boy himself, who's been mentioned on here already. Yeah, the STR, like, I was so excited for a new Super 17, and especially the idea of having these two that then fuse, especially after the fumble that was the Tech LR. Really excited for these guys to potentially be a good replacement and new Super 17 card. And yeah, of course they were not particularly good. And Super Trunks as well. Like the Super Saiyan version, bad. Super Trunks could be decent, but you had to get to the Super Trunks transformation. So definitely two worthwhile mentions on the list here. Most notorious, yeah, the AGL Goku Vegeta. Biggest meme the community has ever seen. But I don't think they're even close to as a fumble as many other units. Personal ones have to be LR Omega or the Int ROF Blues. It's understandable. Physical no beast. I mean, yeah, that is a thing that unit was doomed forever to be hated, underrated, whatever, overrated, where by being the Gohan with beast in the art, beast in the active skill, which the active skill animation is awesome, but not actually a playable beast Gohan. And then we had the memes where, you know, Beast Gohan would show up in a different game or somewhere else, and then it would be, well, this game has Beast before Dokkan. So yeah, that was definitely a big one. A lot of people very, very disappointed because, of course, the marketing, and when we saw the promo art, the LR art that has like the Beast in the background, like everyone just assumed that he would transform and we would get a playable Beast, but then we did not. So now we have Meepo saying the Part 2 LR for Golden Week Ultimate Gohan should have been Kid Buu. Everyone was anticipating it, and then boom, this guy drops. Nothing wrong with the unit or anything, just everyone was expecting an LR Kid Buu. I don't think that necessarily makes this guy a fumble. And then remember, we got physical Kid Buu super easy A. So if we got an LR Kid Buu, we probably would have ended up getting like in Ultimate Gohan's super easy A. And that physical Kid Buu is super, super good. I guess if we'd got an LR1, he could have been a crazy good support unit as well, so that we didn't need to worry about not having the physical Kid Buu super easy A. But I don't know. I think this guy was obviously good on release. I mean, the person themselves is saying, Meepo here, that like it's not that the unit themselves is a fumble. They just didn't like the fact that the Part 2 LR was Ultimate Gohan and not Kid Buu. And I don't know if I would necessarily say that was a fumble, because at least we got the Kid Buu super easy A and he was really, really good. So I don't know if I would include this guy. Tech Vegito, STR Rose, and Gobro's Easy A were all very underwhelming. All are top of the bunch hype characters, but were all fumbled after Easy A, either being mid or not impressive enough. Until we got to the Easy A bit, I was very confused. Like Tech Vegito and STR Rose were obviously super good on release. STR Rose is still probably one of my favourite characters in the game around the time he came out, because he just did everything, right? Good offensively, good defensively, supporting, good leader skill. Like, he was just really, really good. And then, yeah, the Gobros on release were obviously very powerful. But, yeah, all three of those units, their Easy A's were really just not that great, right? They weren't terrible, but they weren't super, super good. And obviously they didn't age very well because their Easy A's weren't super good. So they aged out very, very quickly, which is unfortunate. Drexel, yep, Global LR Super Saiyan 4, and then released in the wrong meta. For me personally, either LR Grade 8 Vegeta, yep, favorite villain in DB was fumbled, or Physical Turles. Yeah, his intro, yeah, would be great now, but he released a year early. Yeah, now that we have a bunch of like units that can actually be run on his 200% lead, we have a bunch of events where you fight a super class enemies and Goku family enemies, but he released in a meta where you basically couldn't get his intro animation, which was just really weird. And now that, like, you know, we've got the LR Turles army Easy A, but the physical Turles is outdated already, so that's very unfortunate. Definitely the quote-unquote Saiyans with no limits, yeah, the AGL Goku Vegeta. Biggest fumble for me was the AGL Goku Vegeta, yep, good on release, immediately fell off as soon as the meta changed because of the 5 turns, and then they basically have to be in slot 1. Beastless Gohan again, yep. A couple more here. Oh, all of these mentioned so far, nice. LR Super 17, Raditz, Limit Breaker Broly, and Grade 8 Vegeta. Then we have our boy Bringer Down. Oh yeah, the Int Goku Black Easy A. I mean, when Physical Rose came out, in events that were a little bit longer, you could actually kind of get away with running this guy if he had time to build up and didn't get caught early on. But yeah, his Easy A, definitely a bit of a fumble. And I believe we got the, oh yeah, we got some conditions here, right? So they're talking about the morale boost condition for the AGL Super Saiyans. That is terrible. The standby requirement for the World Tournament Goku, definitely not very good either. Year 7 Part 2 LRs, yep, LR Omega, first ones that come to mind. Physical Raditz is kind of the obvious answer. He started Dokkan World's lowercase trend, as far as I know, and any release that had something lacking was compared to him. I mean, that is true. Me and my Dokkan friends have had some silly insider jokes about Super Saiyan 3 Broly's Easy A breaking the game. Yeah, Super Saiyan 3 Broly's Easy A was not good, right? his Super EZA is the last chance for him to be good. In Goku Black EZA, the TUR one, yep, we've mentioned him already. In Super Saiyan 4 on Global. Oh yeah, Sword of Hope Trunks, mainly for aesthetic reasons. Yeah, the standby finish is really underwhelming. No KO screen. Aged worse than the other 3 worldwide units. Yeah, definitely a bit of a fumble. Beastless Gohan, LR Super 17. Oh yeah, the Turles movie Goku definitely could have been better. He was just like, even though he does an AoE, he does like one big hit and that's basically all he does. So yeah, definitely a bit disappointing. The fusion condition for Tech Gogeta. I think at the time, I don't know if it was as bad, like being above a certain amount of HP. I guess it always depends on the meta, like, because being below a certain amount of HP can be annoying when your team is like too good, like the STR Vegeta, and you're not dropping below and you can't fuse. But then obviously for this guy, it means as soon as you do get hit by a big super, you're then trying to claw your way back to the right HP so that they can transform. So either way round, it can be annoying depending on the situation that you're in, I guess. Yeah, Mark here, in my opinion, these two are worst examples of Amatsu's incompetence. All we needed was a Universe 6 unit and they couldn't even give her that. Not to mention Super Buu released with no teams, so both of them got screwed, and then a year later they decided to buff both teams. Yeah, 100%, like the Part 2 LR for Kale should have just been a Caulifla, and then that would have helped her out massively. Super Buu was actually quite good on release, but had no good team. I think it wasn't until 21 came out that he got a 200% lead, was it? And then he could be quite good, especially against the specific enemies where he could get guaranteed guard. But yeah, the AGL Super Saiyans, of course the duo, LR Omega Shenron, STR Super Vegeta, his EZA was so mediocre it's crazy. I mean, I guess he came out at a time when we just had a bunch of really, really good EZAs for this year, and then his one was maybe a little bit underwhelming. I don't think he's like would make this list though. Ulma Gohan, Raditz, the Blue Boys, of course. Yeah, Gohan's transformation condition. I thought someone would mention this somewhere on the list, so we can tick that off the bingo sheet. Like, that was terrible. Even now, like after he got his EZA, right, because it didn't change, so it was still super difficult. Yeah, this guy had the potential, but was not bad, not good. Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4s, yep, way too restricted, 100%. Kefla and Turles, yep, didn't get help on release. And then physical, yeah, no beast. The AGL Blue Boys, and yeah, there we go. So a lot of the same ones that we kind of expected to see, a few I didn't really expect to see as well. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who do you think was the most fumbled released unit in Dokkan? I might do another one of these, or I might do a hype one as well, so we can kind of get onto the other side of the coin. But let me know your thoughts down below on who the most fumbled release was in Dokkan. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.